Hello, everyone. I wanted to talk about why I don't have any friends. Now, I've been wanting to make this video actually for quite a long time, but I've been reluctant because it can always be awkward when one makes a video where they are emotionally vulnerable in any way. But as I was sitting out here in nature today in the woods, I just felt compelled to talk about it because loneliness has been a very real problem and struggle in my life. I would say right now, at least, it is probably the greatest struggle that I have because it has made me at times very depressed, and one could even say almost nihilistic. Not really nihilistic in terms of my view of the world, but in terms of my own life and future. Now, I will say that I'm not lonely in the sense that I just want a friend at whatever the cost, because there have been times throughout my life, although not recently, where I have had so-called friends, but I still felt alone because I didn't feel like they understood me. I didn't really resonate with them. Um, for example, when I was in high school, which was really the last time that I had any kind of circle of friends, over a decade ago now, I did have a few people who I would have considered my friends, but mostly I associated with them because of circumstances. It wasn't because I actually had anything in common with them. In particular, there was this one guy who I considered to be my best friend at the time. We had been friends since second grade, and even though we really didn't have anything in common other than the fact that we were both kind of shy and reserved, but it was one of those things where I had known him for so long that I just became very comfortable in the friendship. But after and again, we were very close, at one time, like, he used to stay over at my house, he stayed over at my house several times, throughout the years. But eventually, after high school, I tried to stay in contact with him, but it was one of those things where quite often whenever I would arrange for us to get together or meet up, he would cancel at the last minute. And eventually it became very clear to me that I valued the friendship far more than he did. And when I finally expressed my frustration to him, he shut down, didn't respond, and we haven't spoken since. And that was the end of that friendship. That was nearly a decade ago now. But since then, I haven't really had anyone that I would call my friend. Um, I've had, I've had, I mainly talk to, in terms of people that I associate with, my parents, my sister, um, and forgive me if I come across as somewhat nervous making this video because talking about something this vulnerable does make me somewhat nervous. Again, I talk to my parents, my sister, um, my my niece and nephew, and that's about it in terms of my social circle. And I would say there are several reasons why I don't think I have friends, but I would say the largest reason is because I don't have a lot of opportunities to make friends. I think that's the most substantial reason is that because now I will say that I do have people. There are people online who I associate with online on TikTok and YouTube and other places who I would consider to be online friends. But when I say friends, I mean people who I see, you know, physically in real life, face to face, at least periodically. I would say I do have some internet friends, but in terms of like friends who I meet in person, I don't have any friends. And I do think that having for that internet friendships are definitely valuable, and I think I would be even more miserable if I didn't have internet friends. But it's definitely a limitation if you can't actually see and talk to someone face to face. They're limited in that way, even though I value my internet friendships. But I just don't have a lot of opportunities to make friends because online it's easy to find people who share your hobbies, your interests. It's very easy to find other writers, people who like the classics and such. It's very difficult to find such people in the physical world. Such places don't really exist, or it's a lot more difficult to find them. Because for one, I live in because some people say, oh, in order to make friends, you should take classes and do things of that nature, and or that things that you will find people who have similar interests. But the problem with that is that I live in a somewhat rural area where there just there aren't a lot of things like that available. Um, yes, there are occasionally book festivals, book fairs, and such, but those are weekend events. They're not things where people meet up on a regular basis. Those don't really exist. There are some local writers groups, but they're all online, which kind of defeats the purpose. The whole point of something being local is that you can talk to people in person. If it's online, it doesn't matter where you're from, so it defeats the purpose in that regard. And I actually looked up local writers groups who meet in person, and I couldn't find any. I couldn't really even find any in Louisville, which is the nearest city. The nearest writers groups I could find were in, and this was on meetup.com, was in, and I live in Kentucky, by the way, Grayson County, Kentucky. The nearest groups I could find were in Nashville, Tennessee, which I've been to Nashville before. I go periodically sometimes, but I can't afford to go on such a regular basis. I could form any kind of close friendship with anyone. It's simply not possible. And it's especially unfortunate because there are some people who I know online who, if they lived close enough, I would certainly meet up with them. But none of the authors that I know online, to my knowledge, live close enough for me to meet up with them. Even like to me, like it would be perfectly feasible to meet up with someone if they lived within 4 or 5 hours of me, but I just don't know anyone who I'm close to, at least online, who lives that close. And of course, in order for me to meet up with someone, I would have to form a relationship with them to the point online where I would feel that we have a certain rapport, that I trust them enough. I wouldn't just meet up with anyone in that regard. And it also helps if someone makes their own video content, because I'm far more likely to trust someone if I see videos of them, because I know, because you can usually get a general sense of what it would be like to talk with someone through video. And so I would only meet some of my online friends under very specific circumstances, but it's just unfortunate that the online friends that I'm closest to, at least to my knowledge, don't live close enough to me. And then, of course, another reason why I struggle to make friends is because when it comes to like talking to random people out in public, is simply because I do suffer to a certain degree from social anxiety, where it can be very. I can talk to people if I'm talking about things that I'm interested in, or subjects that I have a lot of knowledge of, but it's very difficult for me to pull a conversation out of thin air and talk to random people. It's just not a skill that I'm good at. And you're constantly worried about, well, if I bring up this topic, do they want to talk about that? And it's just, I am socially awkward when it comes to small talk and chit chat. It's just not something that I am very good at. If I don't have an excuse to talk to someone, then I find it difficult to approach them. And again, I don't have at this time any kind of job or anything like that where I can meet and talk to people. And so it's for all of those reasons that I don't have any friends. It's mainly lack of opportunity. Some of it is due to social anxiety, and it makes me feel quite lonely at times. And I don't know how to fix it, or I would fix it. And but it just makes me quite depressed at times. And it's just this has been something I've always wanted to relay to my audience, but I've always been hesitant when it comes to how it would be received. And so, and it can especially be troubling because, I long to have success as a writer, as an artist, and I want people to understand me on that level. But even if I were to become successful as a writer and as an artist, if I didn't have anyone to share it with, the impact of that would be severely lessened in some ways. So the loneliness has created an emptiness in my life that I don't really think any hole can fill. Writing and reading fill it somewhat, but it doesn't fill it completely. I just wish I had, more friends that I could share my writing struggles and successes with, and I don't, and I don't know what to do about it.